So these meetings are kind of a transition of the meetings we started back in the spring right after safety was identified as a strategic issue into more of a collaborative effort with some of the other efforts going on into the community to kind of align them a little better. So what we're trying to do is work the group, the work of that group, so it aligns better with other work that is happening, if that makes sense. So this is that group.
Okay.
Continuing
Yep.
forward.
And so one example would be the set funding and supporting nonprofit organizations who are doing this work, and looking at the priorities of SET and the safety priorities for Linn County Public Health, and making sure that we're not working in separate, non-communicating silos, right?
Yeah.
So that's an example. Thank you.
Okay.
No, great question. And the other thing was to bring more community partners, not just organizations, but folks from the community together. Any other questions for me? Fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Derrick. No problem.
Good evening. How's everybody? Everybody hear me okay? Good. I grew up in gym, so I know how to yell, right? Again, thank you for coming out. My name is Derrick Willis. I'm the director of a research center at the University of Iowa. Could I see, before we begin, just a show of hands of how many people were at our first meeting? Those who wasn't at our first meeting. Okay, so there's a number of folks, so I don't want to take up too much time, just give you a little sense of how I got here. My center has 4 areas that we focus on at the University of Iowa, and one of them happens to be health and wellness. And so Ann, a colleague of mine, and I did a presentation at a regional county public health meeting, and we heard Caitlin talk about how there was areas that they did a community needs assessment, and how there were these areas that emerged from that community needs assessment. And one of them was the area of safety and violence. And I reached out to Caitlin saying, if you need some help in that particular area, I have some experience. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, and have been in the field of working with urban communities, working on urban issues for over 35 years. My last work in Kansas City was running an urban impact center where we looked at issues and concerns that were destroying communities, destroying neighborhoods, and began to put some strategies around and develop some programs and write grants and really build capacity of community-based organizations to begin to address some of those issues. And so that's where I feel like I have some experience now. I preface that, and I say that just because I have experience there doesn't mean I have any kind of knowledge about what's happening here. I am no expert in the area of violence and safety. What I do have is some experience in mobilizing some approaches to addressing these issues. I do know some research in the areas of how we're looking at things related to an ecological framework, a socio-ecological framework, where you not only look at an individual, or you not only look at a family, or you not only look at a community, but you focus on all of those areas in terms of individual, family, neighborhood, community-based organizations, governmental organizations, all of them where they are coming together and developing a systematic approach to addressing a particular area and issue. And so that's what I come and offer, some experiences in working in those particular areas. And I'm pleased to be here, pleased to be a part of this discussion, and that's just what I am, just a part of the discussion. These ladies here, and we have all met and are framing this process as we go along, but we couldn't do this without you all. And so I'm glad that everybody is here. I'm thankful for the people who came back, who were at our first meeting, which is, I guess if I was going to describe that meeting, it was kind of a forming meeting where we really had 3 areas that we wanted to focus on. What are the things that you're seeing in your communities from your seats? What are the things that could possibly be solutions? And who are the people who are not at the table that can help us in this particular area of safety and violence? And so, so that was our first meeting where we would just kind of forming the discussion. And if I was going to describe this meeting today, it would be more of the framing. And so what we'll do is we'll walk through a process today to really kind of help us dig a little bit deeper into this. Doing it in a way that is inclusive, that is inviting, that gives everybody an opportunity to have a voice. All of you are here because you have some kind of concern related to safety and violence in your communities. And I've worked with communities that when they talked about safety, it was about having access to a corner grocery store to go get a loaf of bread and feeling safe because there was a group of boys who would just hang out at that grocery store. When we talk, I've worked with communities that when they were talking about safety, it was about sidewalks and streetlights. I've worked with communities when they talked about safety, it was about the lives of young African Americans and how do we control those issues. I've been in environments where I worked where I worked with young people who were out there doing the things that were causing havoc to the communities that I lived in. And so I've been engaged in this discussion at multiple levels, and I'm offering myself as a resource here to just kind of help us as we start talking about this. But there's many people at the table here who study this work, who have experience in this field, and again, I think the best way to approach this is by having conversations and engaging the people who are in law enforcement, who are seeing it in a different lens, the people who are living in the neighborhoods and communities that are seeing it in a different lens, the elected officials who are looking at policies and making decisions in terms of rules and regulations and laws that impact and govern our communities, and to just really try to create a diverse mix of people from their seats, from their perspectives, that how do we begin to address the issues that you see as a concern, the issues that you see as when we're talking about violence and when we're talking about safety, how do we begin to address those issues? One of the things that I discussed last time was as us as a group moving from what I call a safe space, where we have conversations where we don't want to offend anybody, where we want to make sure that everybody is comfortable, where everybody is safe, and then moving from that safe space to what I call a brave space, where we get to the point where we are stimulating provocative and thought-thinking discussions, but also doing that in a way that's still respectful, right? So that I don't want us to feel safe in this room. We're talking about issues that are impacting our lives. We're talking about issues that are impacting our families. And so I want us to feel free enough that we can voice what we really feel, but at the same time not offend anybody through these discussions. And so I'm offering us and asking you that we move from being safe in these conversations How you feel about that? Good? Okay. So with that, I guess the next step is just to kind of review what we went through. So what you'll find on your tables in the sheet,
the ones that have kind of the purple.
if we're gonna really move forward on this thing, if we're gonna really move forward on this thing, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna try to talk. I had this book like this, I suggested people read it, and everybody told me, well, I already been to school, shut up black man, I don't want to hear what you say. I had the library buy this book. This is a city of 200-some-thousand people. Guess how many people checked it out the library? 3. But when someone gets killed, we can fill up Green Square Park, we can fill up Redmond Park, we can come to beats like this. But if you're going to solve a problem, you got to know something about it. Now I'm making this session. I'm going to give away free medical care starting next week. I don't have a license, ain't never been to school. How many people y'all going to come see me? No one in this room is going to come see me. I mean, serious about it. But not a person in this room is going to come see me. It will be free. By the way, I don't have a license. Never been to medical school. Got the best teachers in the world, and I will treat you for free. No one in this room going to come see me, no. And I don't blame you. So we have to know about the problems that we're trying to solve.
Absolutely.
And this is a good, and I'm gonna be quiet, this is a good primer for everybody to read, for policymakers or everybody. And I had one policymaker that did read it, and I'm happy about that. But we're gonna move forward. It's gonna have to be accepted. We got some sense. We can bring some things to the table. We know something.
Absolutely.
We just ain't no kids.
Absolutely.
And then I'm done with it.
I appreciate your thoughts. I want to comment on a couple of things. So one, I love the fact that you said looking at data to inform practice. I was in Boston and I heard a presentation on it was called predictive analytics, and they were looking at an issue related to child abuse. And what they did was they tracked all of the issues related to child abuse in a particular neighborhood. And what they did was were able to look at 80% of the number of child abuse cases came from 3 different zip code areas. And so once they began to look at where those issues were happening, and it might be possible for here if we looked at violence and serious violence and track where the calls coming from, where the police responding to, you might be able to track particular areas of focus that might be the census of where we can begin to start, right? And so they took this predictive analytics and they said, okay, they tracked 3 zip codes. The next thing that they did was say, okay, how many arrests are we making in these communities? What are the things that are taking place in these communities? What are the rates of employment, unemployment? What are the home ownership? What are the things related to arrests? And they began to track these data tracks and seeing that there were particular things that were happening in those 3 zip code areas that said, we need to spend some attention in this particular neighborhood. We need to spend some attention in this particular region. And then begin to utilize the data to start in looking at where a lot of the things that were happening in the community. When I was working in Kansas City, same thing. They had 3 zip code areas where 80% of the homicides took place at. And so you right there, you know that there is a problem in those particular communities. And when you looked at it, you unreeled some of the things that were happening there, you could see what was seen. High rates of arrest, high rates of poverty, unemployment at high rates, etc. And so data is good to look at. The second thing that you talked about was really kind of creating an environment where we help people who are experiencing the things that we're talking about, having a seat at the table, being at the table. There was nobody, and I don't know how information gets communicated, but it is my goal as we begin to look at these particular areas that we will have a conversation tonight about who is not here, who are the people that need to be a part of this conversation, and how do we bring them to the table. And it might not be bringing them to a table. It might be going out to them and just having conversations and collecting information. I talked to Brandon this week. He hosted a meeting where he had young individuals who are experiencing violence, who some are a part of the violence, and he has information that I don't know about, and you don't know about as well. And so how do we collect that information that helps guide us as we have these conversations? And I think how how we move forward. You have thoughts?
Yeah, not having been at the first one, just a couple of things. One, I noticed what is not on the what would be helpful would be, and maybe you talked about it, maybe you didn't, but it would be nonviolent intervention training for community folks as well as for institutions. I know that institutions that have been looking at it, some have it, I think the police department specifies that, something as well. But nonviolent intervention
And so
training for community members.
Yeah. So when we break out into these groups here, that is something to bring up there as an intervention.
The other thing is that I'm reading this over, and again, I don't know what assumptions are behind many of these statements here. The fact is that if you think you're outside of the society and you don't have anything to lose, why bother not being, why bother with nonviolence? Just go ahead and do whatever you want to do. I guess I'm kind of curious about the assumptions behind some of these statements that I see here.
Other thoughts? Yes.
I think as we go forward, it seems like very little that we came up with had to do with racism and racial bias in systems. I think there's like slight mention of it, but it seems to me that like it's always easy to pin something on the individual, and much easier to do that. Why is that kid doing that, or this group of kids, instead of what we have to own as a system and across all forms.
And so as we break down into those groups and we're looking at, law enforcement, social service organizations, that to me can be a strategy that we begin to start hosting opportunities for us to build capacity in those areas, and hopefully some of that being taught by individuals that are at the table who are experiencing some of these things as well. But I do know that a lot of times in a lot of these community conversations, there are underlying themes that impact, how these things present themselves. And racism and race, ethnicity and culture and all of that does play a role in how things play out in the community as well.
And I just add that I think it's also like not like as a footnote, like and we should do something. Not that that we address that first. Like let's address racism in the system first and name that, and then the individual stuff follows because we set up a different system. So, I mean, that's like how you tackle that.
And so as you see it, that needs to have its own category. Is that what you?
Well, or just at the top of every.
One of those cross-cutting things that should be a part of every one of them.
I feel like it's easy to say like, we should hire more teachers of color or like more law enforcement of color, but it's like.
But you have to look at those structural things, that have prevented that has placed us where we are right now and stuff. How do you begin to address those? How do you build capacity in community-based organizations to begin to look at it and create environments that are inclusive and accommodating as well? I get you, and I can see that as a cross-cutting kind of thing. Yes, sir.
I wasn't at the first meeting either, but one thing, in my opinion, that I really feel strongly about identifying what is community. What is community from? Is it a place? Is it the people? What is it? I think we have a hard time understanding, but we easily use the word to communicate with each other. But I don't think we truly understand what community means. And that's unity, not division, trying to solve the problem. If you're part of it, you're part of it. And halfway part of it, sometime part of it. You're part of the movement that we're trying to invest back in our community in many ways. And so I think for all of us, I'd like to know, what do we think community is for us? I mean, I might be different in Boston than the neighborhoods in Kansas City. I'm in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Right.
So what's that mean to us is very important.
Absolutely. I think the one way that you do that is by having the community voices there at the table, and the people that we want to make sure that we are protecting, and the people that we want to have engaged, creating that open environment. But we're going to give you the opportunity to dig deep into that conversation around what does that mean, how do we define it, what does that look like here.
I think that we have to realize that the community is not as simplistic for everybody, but we also got to realize the facility works for some people, it don't work for everybody. So every solution that works somewhere else doesn't necessarily work here. You know, and we've got to realize every voice should be heard and respected and appreciated. So everybody has an opinion, has an idea, and that's one of the problems. We think of one simple solution. I know one person or one solution is going to solve this whole problem. I know I see workforce developers on there. I'm within WCP. We're looking at a program we're trying out in Connecticut. One of the big things we're saying is jobs is making it important. Impact the communities, especially communities of color. The people with records have a hard time getting a job. So we really got to do something about it. You know, there's been a lot of programs that go out and get money to do stuff about jobs, but it doesn't really help with the job market, particularly for people of color, doesn't really help. But we got to, you know, we can't keep locking up people and not appreciating giving those people an opportunity to get back into society and work. You know, one of the challenges here is, you know, we know that Linn County has people in Linn County, but 31% of Linn County people can't afford to pay their rent and also buy medicine. That's a problem. That's a problem. But we got people who have jobs, not just any kind of job. You know, people working a job where they got to work 2 jobs and they still can't pay the rent, buy food, put food on the table, and medication. Those are some problems we got to look at. We got to look at, you know, we got the employment people involved, people that have jobs. We got to have people stop talking about, well, we're going to have jobs, we're going to give jobs, but then people of color can't get jobs. There are people, particularly African Americans, who got master's degrees and PhD, can't hardly get a job, you know, but they got the education. So we got to look at what is, and that goes back to what the lady was saying, some of that racism, because we in denial about racism. It's one of the big concerns in this country is that USA wide problem is we deny that racism exists. And we got to realize that it does exist. How does that impact some of the things that are happening? You know, we want to look at it. We're going to look at a child and say, well, that child ain't getting the parent. We don't know what's going on with that child at home. You know, how many of us go and work with that family and sit down with that family and try to assist that family? Yeah. So we got to really look at, let's listen to everybody's opinion. Everybody has a right to opinion. They have a right to their input. So let's respect everybody's input.
And I think that's what we're proposing to do, is to create these opportunities for clear voices. And so then we begin, and it is us defining it as a community, what it looks like in your community, and saying these are the things that impact us. Knowing again that we can't solve everything, but we can put together the framework around the things that are most important to us in these particular settings. And if we're missing some settings here, then let's have it here.
I was looking at one piece of this stuff, the development trust with law enforcement. And one of the things I see, now I'm trying to make this short, but for one thing I see that happen, law enforcement has to be consistent. I'm going to give something. In Vietnam, the U.S. Army had 2 programs that run simultaneously to each other. One group of soldiers would come in and help the people fix their village up, teach them how to do agriculture and do stuff. That was the transportation program. Then another group of U.S. Army soldiers would come and burn the village down. So if the police department's going to have to be constant. You can't have one officer out here being united and the other officers out here being opposed, and then expect for them to cooperate with you. And one book I suggest people to read, particularly law enforcement, read a book called The Yellow Side. It tells you, and oftentimes in the police department, it'd be nice if this whole police department could be successful. Also, the individual officers within that department that stand out in the outstanding in terms of reaching out to the community. But you can't have one officer being officer friendly and the rest of the officers being officer 13. That's not going to work. So policy my opinion and in my experience.
Now,
Yes, yes.
yes, sir.
So here's my view. Linn and I talked earlier today, and we just laughed at ourselves. We've been talking about racism for 40 years with a lot of the same people in this room. I challenge us to do both. We can do both. There's no way around it. There is a component of racism in all of these things we're talking about here. But we are not going to solve racism here. What I would like us to see, and you hit it on the head. Cedar Rapids has got a 2% unemployment rate. When it comes to African American teenagers out of college, I mean, it's 17. When it comes to African Americans that have a felony, we're talking 60–70%. That's what we're dealing with in these neighborhoods. So how can we come out of here with the framework to connect? It's a connection. Because these guys need jobs. I mean, there's not a business in Cedar Rapids that isn't willing to hire somebody if we show them how to do it. And if we show the people that need the job how to get there and how to work within the rules. And if we have to change some of the rules, change some of those rules. You know, but how can we put that together in a relatively short period of time so that we connect the right people with it? Same with rap, same with education, those kind of things. So we can go back and deal with the fights we were fighting 30 years ago. And if we want to do that, you know, I'm in it. But how do we get something in place for the kids and the adults that we can? So,
and that's what we're proposing right here. And so now I've got us off the track a little bit. So I think this was important to frame what we wanted to do tonight, but then kind of get to the point. Somebody.
Oh, wait.
Last
No. Well, I won't belabor it. The simple answer to that workforce is going to frustrate me to no end. We can have that conversation, Dale, you're absolutely right. How many people in criminal employed people?
How many people employ me?
Who's a business owner in this room? Who employs individuals?
we met today, and I said the same.
I did the same thing in Waterloo.
Yeah.
And this is there's nobody in this room who controls the workforce. But there are people in the city that have influence over business owners in this community. Those people need jobs, but I know employers won't give it to them. So we have to figure that out. There really should be employers in this room. Sullivan.
And I agree. When we're looking at it from the social ecological framework, it is all of those groups that need to be here that are part of the equation.
But we've also passed an ordinance that penalizes people in housing, that house people that have felony convictions. So it's a cycle. And we have policymakers passing ordinances that will penalize people who are coming out of the criminal justice system. So our landlords won't even give them a place. You don't have a place to stay. You don't have a job. You don't have to. What do? You resort to crime and
Carla, I need to speak to that because I've really pushed for this because HUD has a requirement that if you're a felon, they require a 1-year mandate for felonies that you cannot get general assistance for housing.
Systematic problem.
And I understand that. I can't control that right now in my role, right? But we were at 5 years. I asked it to be 1. I said, I don't want us to be a barrier. I got us down to 3. We are working on it. Des Moines is 10. So what I'm saying is we are working on that. We can keep chipping away at that, right? So that we can get rid of that conversation of the chicken and egg. Because I feel like landlords are hiding behind that saying, well, Cedar Rapids says it's 5. But we have to then pressure landlords to also say, once people have served their time, we need them back in the community to be productive. We can't be the barrier for that. So we can keep pushing. That we're at 3. I want to see it at 1. Then we have to go federal.
And those are that policy level stuff. So through our conversations, those are the things that have to emerge so that we can begin to look at those things that need to be addressed and formulate a process and a plan on how to address those stuff. I'm going to do one more question and then we have to move on to the...
Just a quick comment. What we talking about for CCR made it legal for landlords to do that. And I suggest everybody read a book called The New Jim Crow by Michelle Anderson. She talks about those kind of laws. in her book. It's very good reading. And she's an attorney, and it's well worth reading her book.
All right, so we're going to move to the next phase where we're going to, and we are already doing this, kind of digging deep into some of the issues and stuff. So,
I just want you to make sure we can add bail bonds on here. New Jersey is moved bail bonds away from being cash related because it's discriminatory. If somebody, if you look at the history of bail bond, somebody can get arrested for something they didn't do, but because of the bail bond system, they can break them. In New Jersey, I'm meeting with people in New Jersey in a couple of weeks, but in New Jersey, they already outlawed that. Bail bonds is not based on cash. Bail bonds is based in this city, and that affects people's records, which then affects their ability to get jobs. You may have been arrested for something you didn't do, but you've got an arrest record on your record. You may not be able to get out of jail, you may lose your college funding and your job because you can't get out of jail. And you didn't even do it. So we really got to look at that system in Iowa.
that's another system thing that has bubbled up that we need to talk about. So I'm going to invite my colleague here to just kind of give some description to the next phase of what we want to do this evening. How are we doing on time?
We need to catch up on this.
Okay, all right. I talk too much.
That's okay. It's good. It's good.
All right.
So our next steps are to break into smaller groups so we can form some action steps for each of these themes on the wall. So you can pick which group you're interested in. We'll have the capacity building group over here in this corner, the engagement and mobilizations of neighbors and community in this corner by the window, establish trust with community partners, law enforcement and social service organizations in this corner, and youth serving institutions, schools, and youth programs in this corner up here. So you can take the sheet with you to your table if you like. Please remember to leave the cross-cutting one up there, and you can refer to that throughout the next, say maybe 15 minutes or so.
So you want to define what each of those groups mean?
Can
You want to define what each of those groups mean? You gave a group. And we don't all necessarily define the group as the same.
So on the sheets, if you look there, it's from the last meeting and it lists all of the things that we thought about. So if you look under each title, and if something you're really passionate about underneath there and you want to be able to make a movement on, that's the best way for you to say, oh, this is where I want to be. This is the conversation I want to have.
And then also, this will be the time to add things to that as well, because we're going to dig deeper into that. This is kind of the framing of the issue conversation right now.
And we also, if there's something, if one of these four groups does not address something that you feel is missing, please let us know because we can add it up there and we can add another group. Those are just the things that Caitlin, Linn, and I here at the health department kind of started addressing. So we're open to other themes that may be needing to be discussed or talked about.
So maybe we can each go to table in the corner area, and we can make sure that each theme has at least a few people to discuss that. And Caitlin has some information on a tool that we can use to make this easier. Before you all get up and move, I want to provide some instructions, because I know as soon as we get up, you're going to find a friend that you want to talk to, and it's going to get easy for me to talk. So on the back of your agenda, there's a little table. So every group, there should be 4 of these that you guys are working on. Every group works.
focus in the center. Sorry to interrupt.
That's fine.
Go for it.
So we're saying all groups are supposed to be focusing on the main thing. Everybody ain't heard that. Everybody hear this? All groups? Yeah. Just continue your conversation. Okay. All right.
Talk about what theme you had, and then share the highlights of what you discussed.
Sure. So we had capacity building. We had a lot of different things, workforce and funding, and research-based learning. And so I'll go with workforce first, since that seems to be what I think I know best for some reason. We, specifically speaking, and as I said earlier, we don't have any employers here. We need to find ways to incentivize employers. And the bubble in my head says force them, but I know we can't do that. But we need to incentivize employers to hire
reentry citizens, elders, and youth, and other underserved populations. So how do we do that? We can't wait on affirmative action, those sorts of things. So I know there are a couple of federal funding programs out there. I imagine most employers don't know about it. The Work Opportunity Tax Credit and the federal bonding program are two that come to mind. How can we better promote those? So we need to work with the city, the county, the media to promote those programs and let employers know that that free money is sitting on the table for them. The other thing is we think about research-based learning. We know that cultural competency is a huge gap in the employers here. We talked about racism earlier. I'll call it state to state. There's a lot of racism in the cities. And I know that's a charged word, but when it comes to hiring, and I've seen it clear as day, and sometimes it's not deliberate, sometimes it's just fear. And so how do we work with employers? Is there funding out there? Is there funding with the city? Is there a bucket of money somewhere? The county? We know we need money to do this, but is there a way that we can offer organizations locally? There are organizations here in this community that can offer competency cultural training to help employers not only know how to attract the right types of candidates, but how to keep them. And these are very simple issues. They're complex, but they're simple answers. They're there. And how do we incentivize people to take advantage of it? And then what was the... Did I cover everything?
Yeah, you did. Because we talked about the funding, we talked about the training, and we talked about the getting employers to the table.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm big. How do we get employers to listen? Because we can talk all day about workforce, but until the people writing the checks make the decisions to hire and figure out ways to retain, all we're doing is circular reference documents.
Thank you. And please remember to turn in your sheet at the end so we can save those strategies. Thank you. What about this group over here?
This group, okay. We had engagement. And so we first said we need to identify all the groups that we need to try to engage. Some of those are traditional, some of those are non-traditional. You know, that means, we're talking about churches, we're talking about youth, we're talking about family, we're talking about the city government, the city council. But we also need to find people who are effective messengers. Because not everybody can go to everybody and reach everybody. We talked about not just telling people come to us, but taking our information out to the community, to those places. So we need to be the voices. And we talked about an example I used is when we went to Chicago to talk to some of the gangs in Chicago. I didn't know the gangs in Chicago. Most of us just say walk up and talk to some gang folks in Chicago. So you had to have somebody that can reach out, can talk the language, knows the language, and can get in and talk to those folks. So when we talk to folks on some of these streets, we got to have somebody that can talk to folks who can communicate. When you talk to churches, we talked about you have to understand that you can't go to every church in the same way. But also, the churches often have resources and contacts in the community that sometimes you don't know. The non-traditional folks. And sometimes the pastors and ministers and folks in the church are related to other folks and they have access. So we talked about the importance of that. We talked about using the example of a Tupperware party. That was my example. You know, we developed a hostile idea several years ago, and that's taking the information out in the existing community with the people that already live there versus telling them to come to us. That was our concept, and we really wanted to do that. We have to find creative solutions, but we got to work with the people in the community, with the people in the community. All right.
Thank you. And what about this group? All right. So these guys have a lot to talk about, but the kind of themes that boil down to the work things. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Our communication between the entities, so organizations know what each other are doing. This might include potentially tapping into existing groups
organizations, schools, institutions, and youth programs. What we need work to be done, putting together assessments of companies and others. Kids need to be included in the development of programs, develop and engage in community, better involvement, and one of the things we really talked about was awareness, is getting to know, I mean, right here today, I got to know this young lady's program, which I have many kids that can benefit from. I do a lot of awareness programs we're working together on, but it's that engagement and that awareness of these programs that are out there. When you give a kid the means to say you can do anything, that means anything needs to be available. So we probably have most of the resources for those things available. I just don't think we share them enough, and I don't think we give them the awareness to the kids enough so they can get to those programs. So I hear a lot like we don't have enough to do, but if the kid wants it, there's plenty to do. There's 3 gymnasiums open right now in our city that any kid can come to if they want to. There's educational, there's coding, there's dance class happening right now, there's art class happening right now, so it's there. We just got to be aware of where they are and let these kids know. Anything on this? Standing ovation? You missed that.
All right. As you can see, this is what we consider the framing phase of it. And I was at this table, and we didn't even touch the tip of the iceberg of the stuff that we really need to get down to. And so this is a part of just kind of starting the conversation, and I guess I invite us to think about in terms of the next steps. Is it that we convene this again and then spend more time, most of our time, doing what we were doing here, and really kind of answering those questions, that worksheet? Because I know that we didn't get to the worksheet here. We got to some of the topics, but we didn't talk about who are the people who want to be engaged, who are the people who are not at the table, who's going to take some leadership, how often do we want to meet, when we want to meet, those kind of things. But we really see the people that are here as the core group of individuals that are going to dig deep into these areas of concern. And so, I don't know if your table was like our table, but we just touched the tip of the iceberg. And so, in terms of next steps, I want to hear from you guys in terms of, and if you believe that this process is what we need to get us to where we got to go. All right? Because I'm just somebody that's facilitating here. Yes, sir.
There's 2 things I see basic here. Is first of all, we have to quit viewing black kids as being a problem. And I got this from a conversation, and years ago I was at school picking up my girlfriend's daughter. Every black little boy that walked out that school, the guidance counselor had something negative to say about their behavior. And I'm saying to myself, damn, don't any of these other kids wouldn't say that. He didn't say nothing to the white kids, didn't say nothing to the kids. But every little black boy that walked out that door, he had something to say about them. And he was doing it in front of me, which was unprofessional in the first place. And I just stood there and quietly listened. And then the next thing is that for our teenagers, we're going to have to overcome our fear of them. That's one reason why they're not being serviced, because we're scared of them. Some kind of way, we have to have people who have to come get out of not being scared of them. Now, yes, they can do bad stuff to you. I want to admit that. I'm not living in a fantasy world, but we have to overcome our fears of them in order to reach out. If we really want to reach out.
I just want to make sure, as a member of the SET task force, I hear a lot of the same language and a lot of the same talk that we had 4 years, 5 years ago. And I'm not knocking the SET task force when I say this, but we're like on a hamster wheel here. We're just going round and round and round. And sooner or later, we're going to have to break this cycle, or we're going to believe that we created a system that we all going to like, and I ain't going to like it. So, I mean, I'm not knocking the SET task force when I say that, but those of you that were part of it, I want to talk about everything we talked about then, but I want to feel like we're moving forward or doing something. I don't want to feel like we're just talking about it.
So what is the action that helps you feel like we're moving forward? And I want to touch
So
base
yeah,
over here.
we decided that we were going to meet again as a subcommittee because we have some great ideas and we are going to take action on those ideas. And so we're going to meet again before the next meeting on April 23rd. We might have to meet more than once, and we've got some action items that need to happen before that meeting, and then we're going to figure out how we're going to do what we said we're going to do here. So that's the action we're going to do.
Yes, so me personally, I'm definitely tired of this meeting and talking and having these conversations, and then next week something else happens. It's like we can continue to meet and have these conversations, and of course, always have our input on what we think. And to go back earlier, everyone talking and giving their input, it's like, and I understand racism is a big issue, but honestly, especially within the Black community, we have to really realize that it's a lot of these problems is Black people held amongst each other. And we have to also, everyone in this room, realize what are we going to do, what is going to be our world. Did you guys just come here tonight to get insight or just have an opinion, or be like prepared to get your hands dirty and have an actual, do something about this issue? Because that's all I'm looking for. Like, I can meet with anyone and everyone anytime, we can talk, but right now, especially these kids, talking with them, they have fear. They don't even really trust. I believe we can't even do anything about it. And it's sad. Some of these kids feel like they're not going to live to see 25. And we're just having these meetings, but these kids don't see the result. And so we need to not set up right now the meeting, but have something in play right now to do. Like I plan on going inside the schools and with these kids, and they're not going to come here, but if we could go to them or have people go to them and discuss and get their point of view, and then bring it to the table, is definitely going to help.
I agree. So let me go there. I'm not forgetting about you. I want to hear from the other table too.
I just want to add a piece. Probably a lot of you didn't get the worksheet because we didn't have as much time as it would have taken to get through the whole worksheet. But there is a little section at the bottom that asks, what resources do you need and when are you going to meet next. So if the resource that you need to meet is a space and someone to bring the team together and send out the invitations, like that is something that can be done for you. We will do that for you. So I just wanted to point that out in case you didn't know that. And then, the goal is for the group to continue to meet more frequently, and then us as a larger group to get together in April again. So I hope each one of the groups continue to meet and set a plan and let us know if you need help with that.
And so I just had a question, because I'm not totally sure, but I hear kind of the underlying tone. When we talk about youth violence, are we talking about kids of color? And if so, then let's say that. But I know when we start talking about adults, I know who promotes most of the violence at adults. So at some point, we got to meet in the middle and say, we're talking about everybody. We are. But it sounds like we're talking about kids of color. Yeah. And so that drives it.
Yeah, I think it's in my assessment of why we're here is about community violence. And there are pockets of that might take that we target in the group, but it's not violence as a whole.
Yeah. And that's all I want, that's to be clear, that we're talking about violence across the board, whether it be kids, whether it be the adults. And at some point, when we see the adults committing the violence, they don't look like the kids I think we're talking about right there. Right.
Well, even to that, honestly, we have to, as Black people, have to recognize that, these are our people that's doing some of the violence too. We can't just keep saying that, especially within the youth, and I'm talking about youth violence because that's where I'm targeted and heading towards. All these other violences, yes, there's violence and issue, but we have to recognize that, especially within our own community, and we can play a big part in helping that. Yeah. But we can't just keep falling into the category, it's big, it has to do with racism and other things. About what can we do as colored people to help our own colored people? Because I'm sick and tired of especially the Black and Black crime and stuff like that. But we want to turn our back to that issue and just put it into a broader thing, which,
Two-way street.
yeah, we have to just come to the fact.
I want to hear there.
Thanks. I just want to say, and I hope this gives the entire group a little bit of incentive or a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. Myself, Dr. Bevins over there, are part of the Youth Coalition. It was put together a year ago, and in a year's time, with a group similar to this, brought enough people together within the community, business people, law enforcement, counselors, lots and lots of people all throughout the community that saw a problem, a perceived problem or a problem in general with our youth in Marion. Within a year's time, with those people and the right resources within the community, within the area, put together what's now the Marion Youth Center. And those are for, right now, 5th grade students that really need resources after school. It's an after school program. And that is thriving right now. And hopefully continues to move forward. But I just want to put that out there that this meeting right here, what we're all doing, what we're all getting together for, we'll have light at the end of the tunnel if we stay focused on the problem. And that is either what we're here for, youth violence. Put those minds together.
But you got to start somewhere. It takes a process. It has to be organized. Where you identify some particular things that you can do that are measurable, and that you can see some progress as each time that you meet, you see some kind of progress.
Correct.
I do. Yes.
I think we want to talk about youth violence, because when you spread out to all the other violence, you get such a broad approach, you won't solve nothing. That's, you won't solve it. That's like me trying to chase down a bunch of chickens at one time. I'm going to catch one chicken at a time.
Right.
But the biggest point, the biggest part here, and I've suggested this, and there's nothing wrong with it, we are not approaching violence as a public health problem. Law enforcement does have its piece. If you were going to draw a line through like this, health would be up here, and the police would be down here, or however you want to reverse it. And we need to approach violence as a public health problem, as a disease. And in our community, it has spread like, but where I live at the corner of 16th Avenue and 6th Avenue Southeast. That's been one of the centers of violence in this community, but it has spread to every quadrant in the community. It's gone across race lines. So we are not approaching this problem as a public health problem or way to solve it. And again, I'm going to say this, we have to pay attention to our kids before they get in trouble. I mean, I strongly suggest that you should not have to go out because, and I told the chief this, when people are out shooting guns at each other, you're probably too late. I ain't saying you can't help them, but there's something that we could have did 5 years earlier that would have made a whole difference.
And that's why we have this area around youth serving organizations to say, how can we begin to start that process?
But just like O'Banion said, we keep on, but one of the things that we suggested was an embryological study so we could know exactly what the problem was, what's unique to Cedar Rapids, and how we could attack it. Basically, get out of our face, we don't want to deal with that because another thing in our problem, and there was a lady, and I'm going to be real sure, it was a lady her name is Dr. Frances Wesley, but she's dead now. She was a medical doctor. When she was doing her psychological studies, she became a medical doctor, but she was doing her intern as a psychologist. She was there, I think, she was at a hospital in Washington, D.C., and the white doctors who were teaching her believed that black people did not respond to therapy. They only responded to being treated by drugs. So again, another underlying question, and I'm speaking in general, do we believe that black people can respond to therapy? And if we don't believe that, we won't give it to them. And we won't offer it to them. If we don't believe that they can respond to therapy, we were going to do all these other approaches. But again, I believe that this is a public health problem
It
for
is.
foremost.
That's why,
and
that's
that-
why the public health is convening this meeting here. So let me just, I know we're short on time.
And thank you for your time. Appreciate
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
Thank you.
I know we're short on time and everything, so your question, and then I want to kind of frame this so we can wrap up.
So I just want to say, I think that, one of the things we've got to do, we can't wait until we get the perfect solution to everything. Do something. I think Brother Jackson said it earlier. Some of us got to realize we got to do more than just meet. Some of us need to go out and do something that we can do. Because we all do something other than just meet.
Right.
But sometimes just reach down and give somebody a hand is something you can do. So we all got to look at, I'm not here to come to meetings and talk, but I wanted to get out in the community and do what I can do. You can't do necessarily what I can do or what somebody can do. What can you do? And that's where your commitment is.
So my thought on that is that as this group did, they framed the issues. They're agreeing to meet again to start looking at how can we begin to address these issues. And so to me, the opportunity that we had tonight was to start thinking about what are the things that we think are most imminent that we need to begin to start doing some work around and doing it in these 4 areas. And so sometimes meetings are necessary. I think we have to get organized and meet to find out what direction that we are going to go as a movement. And so I think it is going to require meetings. I don't like to meet. I have meetings all the time. I don't like to meet, but how else do you get organized and begin a process and to gain momentum in a particular area and impacting an area that is so complex like this? Does anybody else have any solutions?
I would say that if you can, before you leave this room, think about what next step, as together with the people at your table, even if it's a real simple step of let's meet together. If you had any sense from the conversation that you had together about some real action that you could do together. I know that individually, we all might be doing our own thing. We all have our own roles and that type of thing. But we know that if this is going to be a movement, and if we're going to really have an impact in this community, that the impact that one of us can have is nothing like what we can do together. Right. And I was really encouraged and inspired by what came out of this table's conversation and the fact that everybody, I think, at the table wants to move that forward. Mm-hmm. And I can see that in the future, if we take those next steps, that maybe in 6 months, we will have some more employers that are hiring from diverse populations and trainings. So please think about that before you go, and at very least think about a next step. Maybe you're going to contact the one person that's at your table going forward, and I think we're past time and we should go.
I just have one more thing I want to point out. So on the agenda, we talked about we're going to do a set funded program update and a national network of CPG's video. Obviously, we can do that. So I'm going to ask Rachel if we can email out.
I can send that out, and if it's okay with everybody here, there's a set network newsletter. I'll also forward to you that has some of that information in there. And if you don't want that in the future, just you can unsubscribe.
And then the videos, we have 7 minutes worth of videos. I don't want to keep for 7 minutes, so I'll send you all the links. It's only 7 minutes, so please take time to watch it.
So I just want to say, in NSP on the national level, we developed this program in Connecticut, which is about jobs, and it's about how you can employees involved. It's a pilot that we are planning on taking across the country. So I will eventually get some of that to someone here so you can see what we're doing. I'm going to be in New York, we'll be talking about that more extensively on the 13th. But, and I think I've got some information, and we piloted that in Connecticut intentionally to look at how we can pilot it, how it can work, and how it can be moved to other communities across the United States.
Yes. Where people all evening talking about employers and hiring people and diversity and hiring. I just wanted to say that there is a panel discussion this Thursday that the Cedar Rapids Economic Alliance is putting on about how to hire people to turn citizens who have been incarcerated. There will be several employers on the panel, 2
can you send it to Caitlin or I can get you my business card, and then we can send it out to this group. So
Great.
all right.
Thursday morning, right?
Noon.
Yeah.
It's at noon, and I just think it's that.
Yeah, I've got just hopefully three quick comments.
Okay.
One is something that Carl left, but several folks over here said the same thing. Went back to my very first question, what kind of assumptions are we making about some of the statements that I found from that first meeting? Second thing is, we got to be really careful. We talked about diversity and we talked about cultural competency. Those two things are not anti-racism. The whole racism piece is a totally different kind of issue than that. And third, somebody made a comment that there were agencies or people in the community who could do some of this kind of training. I forgot the specifics on that, but I guess it'd be nice to know who they might be and what the venues are.
I've got this here. All right, I know we've went over time. I appreciate you guys being here. We're going to come back together as a group, think about the next steps in business, and report back out to you.
And again, if you're interested, if your group is interested in meeting and you don't have space, like Caitlin was saying, if you need help organizing that, please, I have your business card, email me, and Caitlin and I can help facilitate or do whatever, be the minute takers, be your group, whatever it is, but this is important to us and we're vested in this. So whatever we can do to support you as we move forward. So yes, April 23rd, right? April